Forever Spinning has partnered with Bort Media Incorporated for their Read a Book Nerd initiative.
Read a book, nerd! Welcome back to So You're Interested In, the show where I break down an artist's discography in order to give you, the viewer, the best possible starting off point in order to get into their catalog. On this episode, we are going to be looking into the discography of the indie rock darling, Father John Misty. Joshua Tillman, better known as Father John Misty, has been releasing music for about 20 years up to this point. Much of his material can be described as indie, folk, rock, and singer-songwriter, especially the solo material that we'll be talking about here. The albums and singles that he has released as Father John Misty are critically acclaimed and have garnered him much respect in the music world. Now, let's get into some specifics by introducing you to 2 albums and 3 individual tracks that I think you should be listening to help start your path into becoming a Father John Misty fan. As always, we start with the albums. The first Father John Misty album to check out is his 2015 release, I Love You, Honey Bear. This record shows Tillman's truest colors with his sarcastic banter and introspective lyrics all swirled together with his folksy instrumental. The track Chateau Lobby No. 4 is a great example of this, as Tillman tells the tale of how he met his wife through colorful and quirky stories. It is an extremely loving track, showing off the happiest side of Tillman's emotional power all over this upbeat instrumental that is eventually joined by a mariachi band at the very end there. Yes, you heard me correctly. Another standout is the cut Strange Encounter. A much moodier track, the lyrics center around a troubling night for Josh during his pursuit of a better half. It is without a doubt one of the most beautiful Father John Misty songs, incorporating a plethora of instruments and sounds. One last song to pay attention to is Holy Shit. Written on the day of Tillman's wedding, this song is rather simple in its instrumental construction. The lyrics are full of deeply frustrating questions that are whizzing through Tillman's head during such a momentous day in his life. I think Holy Shit is a great testament to Tillman's songwriting as well as his outlooks on life and love. I Love You, Honey Bear might not be the first record that some people point you towards, but I find it to be a wonderful starting block for incoming listeners. Next up, you should lend your ear to his 2017 release, Pure Comedy. This is a record that will forever be cemented in time for its blistering political and societal critiques all over his signature sound. Kicking off with the title track, Tillman sets the tone for this album by expressing his disdain towards this self-important culture that has been festering for years. It almost acts as a rant over this ever-changing instrumental, something that will be a running theme throughout this record. Next, the song Total Entertainment Forever sees Tillman voice his frustrations about the incessant need for technology to dominate our everyday lives. I would say this is probably the most commercially written song on this album, with its traditional structure and its catchy lyrics. And while I do think you should be listening to this entire record, I would lastly like to talk about the cut Leaving LA. If you like the rant of Pure Comedy, then boy do I have a treat for you with Leaving LA. Tillman begins this 13-minute track talking about the cultural climate of LA until eventually turning this critique inwards toward himself. There are a range of emotions in this song, but one thing does stay constant, and that is the acoustic guitar instrumental that is only occasionally accompanied by a rising string section. It may be a long album, and a depressing one at that, but Pure Comedy is absolutely essential listening for anybody trying to get into Father John Misty. And now, let's go to the tracks. The first track to check out should be I'm Writing a Novel from 2012's Fear Fun. Immediately you are greeted to Tillman's jovial and exciting vocal stylings all over this upbeat instrumental that almost sounds like it's a modern version of something that would have come off of Lou Reed's Transformer. It's just a really fun track that shows off the more lighthearted side of Father John Misty's music. Make sure that you don't miss I'm Writing a Novel. Next, I want to recommend Mr. Tillman from the 2018 release God's Favorite Customer. This still features some of my personal favorite vocal passages in all of his discography, especially in the bridges and the hook. The entire song is just so neat and tidy in its presentation. The lyrics depict a hotel concierge dealing with this Mr. Tillman character who has been living in the hotel for a few months and has become quite the nuisance. I wouldn't necessarily call this his most thought-provoking track, but goddammit, it's good. Finally, you should listen to Goodbye Mr. Blue from his latest release, Chloe in the Next 20th Century. This 5-minute cut follows the story of a man who is talking to his former lover about their shared cat that has finally passed away. Representing a dead relationship that finally has all of its ties broken, Tillman sings about how the protagonist hopes that the death of their beloved cat would finally bring them back together. Goodbye Mr. Blue is a rather simple track instrumentally, but the story is just too engrossing not to be enjoyed by even the newest Father John Misty listener. And that will wrap up my video on Father John Misty. Hopefully you enjoyed, and if you've never listened to him before, definitely go check out his stuff. If you are a fan of his already, maybe I didn't talk about your favorite album or track, and if that's the case, go ahead and roast my ass in the comment section below. Maybe you did get some recommendations from this video that you hadn't thought of before, and if that's the case, please let me know down there. You can also recommend any artists that you would like to see covered on this show. Yes, I do have a bit of a backlog at this point, but you can still suggest it anyway, and hey, maybe someday I'll actually make that video. While you're down there, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already for videos just like this every single week, along with a show like Stacks of Wax, where I go through my record collection alphabetically and show off what I got. And that seems to be all that I have to say at the end of this video, besides go to your local record store and support them alongside supporting the local artists in your area. And until I see you next time, happy listening.